Hello and welcome to Moxie Journal. My name is Calyx and I am so glad you're here with me today. I have a brand new deck in my collection and I wanted to share it with you. It's called Desert Illuminations by Lindsay D. And I thought today what I would do and take you along with me is to go through the Welcome Aboard spread I just did in my journal, explore a little bit about why I ordered this deck and what I expected, and how it feels now that I've worked with it just that tiniest of bits, and then I will step through card by card. I'll leave timestamps so that if you're only interested in part of that, you can just skip ahead. I will say, though, that if you want just a quick flip through and just to see without any commentary, this is not going to be the deck walkthrough for you. I am a little bit of a wordy girl. So if you're still interested, I would love it if you'd join me as I explore and welcome in this Desert Illuminations Tarot. So if you've seen my previous Welcome Aboard spreads, or you may know already that I use this a little notebook. This is just it's a black notebook by Wonderland 222, and I have these wonderful elemental stickers on it from my Dandelion Diaries is the name of her shop. She did all of these stickers. I bought them from her. I think it's my Dandelion Diaries. It might just be Dandelion Diaries. I'll leave the link in the description if you're interested in the stickers. And I just have a little plastic cover on it. And what I do in here is that when I get a new deck in, I do an initial welcome in spread, and I have, depending on the type of deck, if it's a full tarot deck, I will use these 7 questions, and I actually got these 7 questions from the Season of the Witch Oracle books, but I tend to actually use only 4 questions when I'm using an oracle, just because they have such fewer cards in them. Anyway, the one I'm going to be using today, because this is a full-on tarot, is the question 1, what personality do you have? What is your strength? I've modified this 3rd question. It used to say, what is your weakness? That's what's printed in the book, but I changed that to, what are your limits, or what are you not interested in? And then question 4, how will you help me grow? Question 5, when should I call on you for guidance? Question 6, what is the best way to work with you? And question 7, what will our relationship be like? And I have that just tipped in, meaning I've just taped it, and I've taped it in a way so that I can flip it open and I can see it while I'm doing my initial journaling. But as you can probably see, I actually rewrite the questions so it's all right here. So this is the spread that I've got, and I had a little fun with it, and I used the colors of pen that are in the deck itself. And I actually, this is a little rug that I use as a picnic blanket that was woven and is from the Southwest. So I thought it was exactly perfect for today. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing I want to do is I'll tell you just a little bit about this deck. And it says, again, this is Desert Illuminations by Lindsay Williams, and it's from US Games. It comes in this wonderful, sturdy 2-part box, and it comes with this wonderful book called a codex, and then it has cards there, and we'll get to the cards in just a minute. But on the back it says, the desert holds a mystical beauty and cosmic energy unlike any other place on earth. This captivating landscape emits an extremely high vibration that allows us to readily access the spiritual realm. Desert Illuminations Tarot delves into tarot archetypes while exploring the mythos and magic of the American Southwest. This boldly colorful deck, featuring notable historic figures, also guides you to connect with the elements, chakras, and astrology, and open your consciousness to new possibilities. It's a 78-card deck. It has beautiful teal painted edges and a 120-page illustrated desert codex guidebook. So that's what we're starting with. And I am really excited about this. I'm not a desert person, so that's kind of surprise number 1. I don't really just automatically resonate with really dry places that tend to, at first glance, look kind of brown and barren really is what I think of with the desert. But I have actually always really liked reading fiction that's set out in the Southwest. I love the Leap, Horn, and She novels by Tony Hillerman, and I have a couple of photo books actually that are based out in the Southwest. So I have a weird draw to it, even though I don't know, it doesn't call to me the way, say, the ocean does. When I'm at the ocean where the land and the sea meet, there's just a part of me that opens up and is online that is just not there anywhere else. And I have a mother who feels that way about the desert. She just loves the desert. Now, she loves the ocean too. But when I was little, she used to talk about the desert, and my great-grandparents and grandparents have some connections in the desert as well. So I've always kind of had that interest in people that I love who love the desert. And I used to work and do a lot of traveling. I used to travel for work, and since COVID, I don't very often. But one of the places I would go quite frequently, because it was a place for meetings where for the companies that I work for, is in Phoenix, Arizona. So I've gotten to spend quite a bit of time in the desert in sort of small, a couple days at a time here and there over the years. And every time I go, I like to ask people, I'm often in a taxi or an Uber or something, and I ask people, especially if they've moved to the Southwest, what drew them? What do they love about it? And if they've lived there for a long time, like why do they stay? What pulls them? What do they love best? If they were going to work for the Board of Tourism, what would they tell people to draw them into the desert to come explore the places that they love? And I've actually had 2 different times I've had a driver say, oh, I wouldn't tell anybody. I want to keep it a secret. It's so beautiful here. I don't want people to come in and mess it up, because one of the things I love is that I can get away and not be around any people. So I think that's kind of an interesting piece. But my grandfather was from Deming, New Mexico, and anyway, so I have connections, and I'm working to build more. And I just saw this deck and thought it would be a great way to do that. Also, I saw a little bit of a flip through. And there are some fun features in this deck that we'll get to that totally speak to me, in addition to just the colors and connections with my mother and my sister and my family. There are some alien creatures in here. I think that's just super terrific. Anyway, okay, so what I'll do here is I'll just kind of quickly go through how my spread went. Again, what I first do is I take a little picture, and then I print it. All these are just printed on my copying printer machine, and I just put them down on the plat. And this one I actually take as a photograph of my spread in the deck, and I write a little something up. And one of the things, this is the back of the card, and we'll see that when we get to the actual cards themselves. But these are eyes, and I do not do well with open eyes staring at me. I am a little freaked out that I have this deck now that has a back of eyes. And in fact, I just in the last video said I don't do very well with decks that have eyes, particularly that are open, that I have to touch. But apparently I'm working on aversion therapy or something, because I have this deck and I love it. I think when I first saw this, I thought it was just sort of a picture like this. I didn't quite track that they were eyes. Kind of from a distance, they could just be little dots. Anyway, turns out they're eyes, and I'm figuring it out, you all. I am figuring it out. So a couple of things here that I just wrote about, that it was connected to my family. And also, I really like the way they renamed the suits. I'm fascinated by literature and art that are specific to a place. I'm from the South, and Southern literature is completely evocative of the experience of being in the South, and especially different regions in the South, right? Louisiana literature is very different from, say, the Carolinas or from Tennessee. And so there are there are ways to explore the spirit of a place, and this deck does that so well. It plays on pop culture, it plays on the imagined and the real places and characters set out there. It evokes the colors, it's illustrated, it's this really just great experience. So looking at the questions, just to kind of give you an overall idea of how this deck read for me, how the personality was, and then we'll get into the cards and you can see them for yourself. But this version of this deck with me, this is the tone it came up with. When I asked what personality do you have, it said the 14, the king of cactus, which is the 14 of earth for me. That's the way I write that down. And they, in this deck, instead of pentacles, they say cactus. And instead of swords, they say daggers. And instead of wands, they use chilies, hot fiery chilies. And then instead of cups, they use jugs. And it's so fun. I love that the suits are specific to the place and the theme. This is just a really well themed deck. All right, so then what is your strength? I got the 4 of cactus. Again, the cactus. It's very fun because I actually got several cactus and a couple of the jugs, and only one only one of the swords. And I didn't get any major arcana cards, which I think is pretty reflective of this deck being a little bit lower key, a little bit more playful, less of deep spiritual consequence for me, just a sort of connecting, lightweight, day-to-day kind of deck, or a seasonal deck, but not anything. Obviously, it's going to be, well, maybe not obvious to you, obvious to me. If I have a deck that I work with, it is part of my spiritual practice. That's just sort of the way I go. But it's spiritual in the way of having fun with doing my chores, putting on some music while I vacuum or scrub or doing laundry, not necessarily sitting at my altar doing deep meditation work, pulling cards for a ritual, that kind of thing. This is more of a day-to-day play deck for me, and that just energy came right out from the very beginning. So the question 3 was, what are your limits, or what are you not interested in? I thought it was fascinating that my answer was the 10 of daggers. The 10 of swords, the 10 of daggers, this is a card that has come up for me a lot in the past couple of months. Definitely a stalker card, and I've had to kind of work with that and find meanings, because sometimes it comes up and it makes a lot of sense, and other times it's come up and I'm like, I just don't feel any of that. So first of all, I think this 10 of daggers, this 10 of swords is a really fantastic card, and we'll see the real card in just a moment. But I like that she's holding the daggers, that they're not stuck into her back, but she is in a skeletal form. So the way this codex describes all of what's going on in the art and connects that to the meaning is wonderful. And in this case, the description was a skeletal woman holds 10 daggers under a starry sky, and it symbolizes a death or an ending that may have been painful but wound up being transformational and a shift in the end. And I thought, first of all, that's a beautiful card. It's a great write-up. And third of all, I'm really grateful that this is an energy that this deck is not interested in working with. So again, that tone about this deck for me. Then it says, how will you help me grow? The answer was 6 of jugs. The description in the guidebook was a flirtatious cowpoke couple is hanging out in their yard filled with a garden of blooming cactus jugs. Rainbow after desert rain. This evokes enjoyment, nostalgia, memories, and it tells me to embrace my inner child. So fantastic. And then, when should I call on you for guidance? And the answer was Ace of Cactus. And it says, an alien hand appears from a mystic nebulous cloud, offering a cactus section to all who seek to accept this cosmic gift from the universe. And then it talks about the desert being not only a physical place, but a metaphorical place. And this is a place, archetypally where a hero ventures out into to discover their true self and enlightenment. So I love that seeking place is when I should call on for guidance. And then in answer to what is the best way to work with you, I got the 9 of Jugs, and it describes a handsome cowboy feeling completely content, proud, and fulfilled, surrounded by luxurious velvet curtains, a prismatic foyer, and a copious amounts of mystic whiskey jugs. Okay, I love that they're mystic whiskey jugs. That just totally cracks me up. And what a fun energy to get to work with this tool. And then finally, in answer to the question, what will our relationship be like? I got the 10 of Jugs. Now, I had shuffled. These were not right next to each other. They were scattered all over the deck, but that was the next card that I got. And this is a singing trio, country western trio with a rainbow of jugs above them. And it says a celebration of music, friendship, and collaboration. It also has the words yeehaw in the description, which is just hilarious. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, so I have heard yeehaws my whole life. Anyway, so this was the playful, fun, exciting, vibrant reading that I got from these cards, and I just can't wait to share them with you. So welcome aboard Desert Illuminations, and let's look at how you are set out. So again, it's by a wonderful artist named Lindsay Williams. It comes in a 2-part box, which is my favorite form. I like that it's small. There's not much, in terms of waste. I like how solid it is. I like that I can keep my cards in it. Now, I do say some of them have really fun pictures on the inside and this one doesn't, but that's okay. Here is the guidebook. And it's called a codex, which I think is just a very fun word. It's a really nice size. You'll see I've underlined a lot. I did, in fact, look at the cards first when I welcome cards in. I go through them one by one. I look at them the way they're ordered to begin with, and then I go through them and look at them, and then I reorder them for myself. And we'll talk about that in just a second. Look at how pretty this is, that teal. These are the eyes on the back. Again, evocative of that southwestern weaving motif, but with the spiritual illumination of that open eye. And then we have our codex over here. I'll put this over on the side. And one thing I do love is when they give us a good write-up about the creator. And this creator is a contemporary interdisciplinary artist living in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. I love the names of some of the places in Arizona and New Mexico. Truth or Consequences. That's a great address, huh? So she is a trained artist trained at Parsons School of Design in New York. And then I love this write-up. It says her artistic style is heavily influenced by the 60s and 70s psychedelic poster art, Japanese woodblock prints, flash tattoo, vintage Americana motifs, spiritualism, human psychology, and the desert landscape. So it is just a really great write-up about her. There's actually a desert prayer sort of poem, and then there's a wonderful cactus spread in the back, which I'll let you investigate if you get this for yourself. And it has a nice table of contents, has an introduction talking about just how to use the tarot in general. And it does say that tarot is seen as a useful tool to help discover and understand the human experience and how we can apply these messages and symbols to our lives, spirit, and psyche. And that right there aligns with me. So that was nice to read. It does talk about different types of spreads, a 3-card spread, how to examine a 1-card spread, and then it talks about the major arcana and what that is. So if you're a beginner, this deck is not a bad one at all. It's playful and it's interesting, but it does follow the Rider-Waite-Smith iconography, and it also has some information about brief references to the zodiac, chakra, and elemental associations, so you can begin to build those correspondences. And then for each card in the major arcana, you have a little black and white photo, you have the key, you have the planet, the element, the chakra, and then a little write-up about it, sort of, what the key description is. And it does talk about what you're seeing in the imagery on the card and then how it relates to the traditional meaning, which I think is very, very fun. And there are some real life people. For instance, the High Priestess is based on the powerful butterfly maidens of the Southwest, and the Empress is based on Georgia O'Keeffe. And then there are some not so real, but maybe more imaginary, like aliens beamed from other planets, or the mythological trickster of that southwestern trickster energy from the Hanno clown of the Hopi culture, right? So there's a wonderful mix of both. And then when we get to the minor arcana, it's not quite a full page, but it's pretty close to a full page for each of the minor arcana. So there's a lot of really great information in here, and it fits perfectly in the box. All right. So let's look at the cards themselves now that we have it set up. So the first thing we have, as she interrupts herself for about the 15th time, the way I order my cards is I like to look at the North or the Pentacles suit first, and then I go to the Swords, or in this case daggers, but the East, the Air suit. Then I go to the South of Fire, and in this case the Chiles, and then I go to the West, which is usually Cups, Water, the Suit of Emotions, and in this case they're the Jugs of Mystic Whiskey. And then I sort of complete my circle by coming back and going through the major arcana. So just to let you know that that's the order I'll be going through them. If that bugs you, then I'm sorry, and you can watch another flip through of this deck. All right, so we're starting, as I said, with the Pinnacle suit, the Northern suit, but in this case, it's the Ace of Cactus. And you can see we've got some Rider-Waite-Smith, but imaginatively transposed into this connection with the aliens. And I love that there's a pop culture connection with New Mexico and Roswell and the aliens and things, right? So what a great thing to imagine. So we have this Ace of Cactus here. We have our Two of Cactus with this being, and I can't say that word, lemniscate. Is that how that's said? And then three. So the cactus suit is inhabited by these imagined alien creatures. And so each suit kind of has a different theme, a different motif, a different angle on the mythos of the Southwest of the United States. So the three, here we've got our teamwork, collaboration. 4, a little spider warning, look away if you don't like spiders, because here we have this wonderful figure who is balancing on a giant tarantula in a sun-soaked desert, again with the pinks and the oranges. We have this barren landscape with the 5. Definitely a challenge to get through. Then we have 6. We have this generosity and connection here. The 7, we have our little vintage car on Route 66. Here we've got the 8. I'm not really sure what this creature is mastering, practicing, but we've got all of our little slices of cactus, our discs there. Then we have the 9 with balanced atop of a giant saguaro cactus. And then our 10, look at our little alien couple, absolutely happy, carefree, the rainbow in the sky, just living their best life. They've gotten everything that they wanted, and they are enjoying it. Then we get into our court cards. We have this page who's vibrating. It looks like he's just resonating that that energy, that interest, that enthusiasm. We have the Knight of Cactus. This one cracks me up so much. He's riding on a very placid cow, and I love that. I love that connection. Here we have our Queen. Look at her fabulous outfit. Then we have our King of Cactus, and he was my personality of the whole deck, and it talks about him being clothed in holographic vestments here, just master of the universe, just at, he's totally kind of crazy and wacky looking. Okay, so that's the wackiest it gets, but I just think those are so much fun. And we get into our swords, the suit of air and intellect and strategy and piercing through. So we have our Ace of Daggers. Oh, did I skip the 2? What did I do with it? Oh, I just had them in the wrong order. Oops. I love this 2. I think, is this Annie Oakley? Let's look. Oh no, it's just a blindfolded desperada clutching 2 mystic daggers. So we do see Annie Oakley later. I think she must be in the major arcana. Again, this deck is peopled with characters from real life, as well as just imagined characters. We have the 3 of swords. This is obviously reminiscent of traditional imagery, but I really liked the write-up on this one. It talked very specifically about a sacred heart is suspended in a desert rainstorm. 3 daggers are piercing through the heart in multiple directions. This heart is on fire, with a rose blooming out from the center, which symbolizes perseverance through pain and tragedy. No storm or rain can put out the flames that ignite the passion of the soul. So it's got the that emotion, but also the daggers, the lessons that we take from that. So, oh, and once again, maybe I should get a little closer to the cards. Oh, Calyx. Here we go. Maybe? Okay, get them here. So that's our 3 of swords. Traditional, definitely resonating with the iconography, but I like the particular spin. This is the 4. This is the rest, like in between incarnations, after the challenges and before the next incarnation. I like the Starry Night. Here's our 5. Look, she's been wounded, but she's practicing getting ready for the next conflict, maybe. I think this is a really fun card. And then we have our 6. We have our classic car again. I think this is on Route 66. Wide open space there. Getting out. We have our 7, brandishing the daggers. Look, her face is covered. She's a bandita. We don't really know what she's thinking. Maybe she's a little sly. Maybe she's celebrating. And then we have the 8. This 8 of swords is one of my favorites, 8 of daggers. She is our damsel in distress, our heroine. She's quote unquote trapped. She's on this, the railway, and the train is bearing down. So will she escape? Will she get out? Will she perceive a way to extricate herself from the situation? Or is she going to wait for some other agent to come and rescue her? I think that's a really good question. Great thing to journal about if that card comes up. Here's our 9 of daggers. Oh, this guy's pretty scary. This figure is dealing with those anxiety daggers. And then we have the 10. Again, I already talked about how much I really like this card. And also I'm pretty glad not to have it be my deck be very interested in exploring that with me right now. We have the Page of Daggers. This great energy. I love the costuming. Here we have our Knight of Daggers. That motion, that impulsivity going on. Again, with the costumes and the colors. Here's our Queen of Daggers, sharp, insightful. Wonder if she's the same figure from the 5, but she's just grown into her sovereignty there. We have our king. Look at him. Huh, just love it. And then we're into our fire suit, our southern, the Ace of Chilies, again with the hand and the element over the landscape. We have our 2. Love his poncho and his little 5 o'clock shadow. We have this adobe arch. We have the chilies. I love the pottery. Look at that. Isn't that great? And her textiles. All of this is so reminiscent. We have the 4 looking over that traditionally built adobe wall, the sun shining. We have our 5, our passions flaring with these roosters attacking each other, and the chilies there in the back. We have our 6. I love that she's wearing the chilies here. I had this color blue eyeshadow back in the early 80s. The 7, look at our snake. Looks like he's protecting this collection of chilies here. Maybe his home there. The 8, we have this sacred bell, again with all the Southwestern art motifs. The 9, oh, I love the vantage point of this card. Look at that. And I think she's, those are steps. That's maybe they're supposed to be going up to the top and they're carrying this burden. But there's a hope here. It's almost done. Just stick it out a little bit more. And then we have our 10. Again, that burdened, but that, I don't know, there's a choice. It's like that kind of trudging, but look, the end is over here in sight, and I don't know, maybe short-term sacrifice for a longer-term gain. Look at all of those chilies. Look at all of those staves, wands. And then we have our page of chilies. With his beard. I love the little... I have a son who actually has a wild and crazy beard, and he likes to braid it and put little things in it. So this kind of makes me think of him. The Knight of Chilies, look, riding this buffalo. And I love that she's like side saddle here too, right? Just for all that the buffalo is prancing around, she's got it under control. And then we have the Queen. Look at that crown. Oh. And our King is kind of giving the side eye. I love his crown. Don't they look beautiful together? I think they're great. Then we have the Ace of Jugs. Here's our Mystic Whiskey. And it talks in the write-up about the jugs and the soiled doves, which it had in quotations, and I need to look up, but I think they might mean women of easier virtue. So we'll see that card in just a minute when we get to it. The Saloon Girls, maybe. We've got some lotuses. So here we have Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, pretty famous couple from that era. I love them. Here we have the Soiled Doves. We have these wonderful 3 of Cups, 3 of Mystic Jugs. Here they are, too busy enjoying each other's company and fun to worry about your judgment, the book says. I think that's a terrific view of it. We've got our cowboy cowpoke here. That is that's our theme in the cups, is the cowpokes. And we have he's missing out on this offer here of the 4. He's kind of taking it maybe too easy, too laid back. Then we have our 5. We have the traditional ones tipped over, and the ones behind our masked and cape figure here, that they're maybe not seeing. Then we have our flirtatious couple with their blooming cactus garden and the rainbow, just enjoying their time together. We have our 7. Look at all of our choices. Again, I think this style is so fun. We have our stagecoach moving through the landscape here with our mystic jugs. I love all the rainbows. And then we have our 9 and our 10 that we've seen. We have our 9, our handsome cowboy with his velvet curtains, just being content and proud and happy. And then we have our 10, we have our trio crooning and celebration and music. And then we have our page of jugs. I think this is Billy the Kid, a sort of famous Wild West figure, and it talks about his immaturity and how that ultimately led to his end in the New Mexico desert. But here he's our page. Maybe a little bit of a warning lesson. And then we have the Knight of Jugs. Look, he's on a bucking bronco. Look at him go. I like the knights. Sometimes, if you've seen my videos before, you may know I sometimes have challenges with the knights, but in this deck, I find them wonderful. Here's our Queen of Jugs. I think she's terrific. This is the Queen of Cups is my significator, one of my favorite cards. So I love seeing her here in her purple, my favorite color. I love her star. I love all the rainbows. She just looks like she's got abundance, and she is wonderful. Here we have the King of Jugs. I think this is, if I remember right, this is Wyatt Earp. So I think I have that right. Anyway, isn't he fun? Mustache. And then we complete our daily circle, and we dive into the sort of spiritual or bigger, the major arcana, the secrets. And we start off here with our Fool, the 0 key, our trickster. And I just love that he has these little black and white stripy stockings. That's one of my favorite motifs in Storybook, or the black and white stripy stockings. I suspect that they have some relationship to Hopi culture. I don't know very much about Hopi culture, but I think I can picture some of this. So maybe they aren't supposed to be necessarily evocative of more like European storybook culture, but I can't help it. That's the lens I have. So for me, that imagery does sort of double duty. And of course we have the butterflies, and he's about to jump off the cliff, or soar off the cliff, or fall off the cliff. I guess we'll see as it goes. He's got the sun beaming down, and he is not looking where he is going. We have our Magician, who is this manifesting being here from other worlds, that vibrating, and he's got that, that energy going on. We have the High Priestess. She's that butterfly maiden. She's representative of that butterfly maiden in Southwestern traditions. She has such a look on her face. Here's our Empress, based on Georgia O'Keeffe and her work in New Mexico, feminist icon. And here we have Geronimo, and the write-up about Geronimo is really interesting. Where do we see that? Geronimo is represented with the Emperor card. He was a prominent military leader and medicine man of the Apache. He represents a strong foundation of leadership, love, and wisdom. Isn't that just wonderful? And look at the energy behind him in these clouds. And then we have Sitting Bull as our Hierophant, and he is a Lakota leader who led his people in resistance against the U.S. troops. So this card, it says, this card asks you to listen to your spiritual core or the mentors in your life to help guide you in the direction of your cause. Life is not a journey to be taken all alone. It is important to seek out those who can light the spark of divine inner wisdom inside of you to spur you into action. I think he is a wonderful, provocative choice for that, actually. Look at that. Can you hear my little candle over here? It has a wooden wick. I don't know if the microphone's picking it up. It's the first time I've ever burnt a candle with a wooden wick, but it's popping like it's a real fire. Like it's just over here making little crackly noises. It's so much fun to have a mini little fire going on. I mean, I know candles are mini fires, but I normally can't hear them crackling and popping. Anyway, we get to our Lovers card, and this is Calamity Jane and Wild Bill Hickok, which is, again, with that myth and the stories and the legends of the Southwest. What a pair they were. And then we have Buffalo Bill himself as the Chariot, and how perfect, because Buffalo Bill went all across the U.S. with his Wild West show, promoting the stories and the legends from the Wild West. So how great for that to be our Chariot card. Look at all those stars going on. And then we have the Strength card. Look at that. I love this sort of pink wolf, and this is, it's really red. It says this is based on the myth of the red wolf, and this is a legend, a story from Southwestern mythology. From does it say exactly which group this is from? It doesn't. It just says that it's based on a Southwestern story about a woman and meeting a red wolf and having to rely on the red wolf to share food and water together, and following the spirit of the red wolf to gain enough strength to survive death. She was pure enough in spirit to do that. Then we have our lonely, iconic Southwestern U.S. cowboy as our hermit, with the light of the moon out there on the hilltop. We have our Wild West saloon roulette wheel as our wheel of fortune. And then for our Justice card here, this is based on the legendary stagecoach Mary. How great is this? She was the first Black woman to carry mail throughout the Wild West. No mail thieves could stand a chance against her sharp shooting skills. She represents justice, fairness, and truth. Stagecoach Mary. We have our Hanged Man. He's our cowpoke who's gotten strung up and he's having to extricate himself. And while I know intellectually that this is his little side piece, his revolver, to me it looks like a carrot, and I love carrots. I know that's kind of a strange thing, but I love I like to eat them. I think they're very fun, but also just as an icon, especially in the spring around Easter, right? There's a whole bunch of carrot stuff, and I always get myself like a little carrot dish or a little towel or something that has carrots. Anyway, so I looked at that, I was like, oh, a carrot. Only later I went, oh, it's a gun. That's not as exciting. But I think I will still always see that as a carrot. And I love that he's reaching for a carrot, possibly, maybe to help him extricate himself. I also have a story in my personal experience where I was in a triathlon and someone handed me a carrot as I was running on the half marathon portion of it. And I was so foggy and tranced out, I couldn't figure out what to do with this just giant carrot. I mean, it still had the green, it had the little roots dangling, and I ran 13.1 miles with a carrot in my hand. Anyway, so carrots, where they maybe aren't. But again, this is one of those places where when you bond with a deck, you see things that speak to you, even if maybe the creator didn't necessarily intend them to be there. Then we have our Death card. Look at that. I think that is a powerful, really interesting image, right? It evokes that Dia de los Muertos, that holiday, that understanding of death as part of the cycle of transformation and a force in our lives. I think this is beautiful. I really appreciate the both whimsy and quirky and illustrated and playful nature of this deck, but also the serious themes, particularly here in the Major Arcana, which is where they should be, right? So here we have our Temperance card. This is based on Our Lady of Guadalupe, I think. Definitely Mary, but I'm pretty sure it's Our Lady of Guadalupe. We have our Devil. Oh, look at those wings with all those eyes on them. Yikes. We have our characters there that are enslaved and maybe need to make some choices. Here we have like a Spanish mission type of building, and these look like some cowpokes who've been blasted out. This is in the process of coming down. Great Tower card. And look at our star. This is from the cover. She's pouring the stars out in the water. It's traditional weavings. We have our moon. We have a scorpion here. I think this is perfect. And we have our adobe Pueblo type buildings here. That starry sky, the moon. Maybe our coyotes there. And look at this sun card. Ah, I love this sun card. I don't often like the sun card, the traditional sun card. I love the meaning, but the sun card is often, I don't particularly resonate with the image, with the child or naked baby on the horse. But this, with this eagle dancer, with the corn, with the life-giving sun, that vibrant, with that all those colors, with this connection here, I absolutely love this. And then we're back to a little bit of whimsy with our Judgment, and that, the cow being taken up by the aliens, that awakening, that calling to what the next part of it is all going to be like. And then we have the world. We have our corner pieces here. We have our, look at this, looks like the lilies, maybe. We have this dancer, this figure. And I think, is this Hopi? Maybe. I'm sorry that I don't quite know all of the... It says, various Katsina dolls dance around a wreath of nopals suspended in the cosmos. So, signifies the circle of completion for the journey of the trickster. And again, in the codex, it tells you all about what the ruling planet is, or what the chakra association is. So there is even more depth in the cards than just what I showed you as we walked through. But that is our Desert Illuminations Tarot, and I'm so glad to have this deck in my collection. And in terms of how I'm going to work with it, I am going to turn to it with play, and when I'm seeking, and when I just want to maybe just explore and have a little bit of fun. And one fun thing that I'm going to do is that maybe even by the time you see this video, I will have this deck with me actually out in the desert. I have a work trip for the first time. This is only the third work trip I've had that's going to be an in-person trip since COVID. So in 5 years, it's my third project in person, when I used to have 3 or 4 or 5 a month, every month. So I'm going to take this deck out to the desert with me, let it connect a little bit, and maybe be in in the moonlight of the desert or just under the starry sky. So I'm excited for that, and I really am glad that you were here with me to walk through. I hope you liked this. If you've worked with this deck, what do you think? Do the aliens just squick you out, or do they add something to you, add something to it for you? What do you think? I'd love to know. Leave me a comment. If you made it all the way through this ridiculously long video, you could even put a cactus and I'll give you extra. Yay, thanks for being here. All right, you have a great rest of the day and happy trails to you until we meet again.